Hi there, my name is Ileana Navarro and I am the director here at Adele Care. We're excited that you're joining our network of caregivers. Adele Care was founded by Adelaida Santos Flores and we have been proudly serving families of Central Florida since 2004. We specialize in the screening, credentialing, and referral of safe, qualified caregivers. Our services can help anyone live safely, comfortably, and independently for as long as they like by helping them find the perfect caregiver. In this video, we'll go over the service agreement or contract, our relationship as a nurse registry and you as an independent contractor caregiver with us, and important policies and procedures established by Medicaid and APD for the services that you will provide. Please make sure to watch this video entirely before your onboarding appointment to sign the contract with us. If you have any questions, please write them down and we'll be happy to answer them at your appointment. As a courtesy to you, I will be going over this independent contractor agreement. However, please understand it is your responsibility as an independent contractor to fully read and understand this agreement before you sign it. Let's begin by defining or understanding what is an independent contractor. If we go to the IRS page, official page, you understand or see that the general rule is that an individual is an independent contractor if the payer has the right to control or direct only the result of the work and not what will be done and how it will be done. If you are an independent contractor, then you're self-employed, meaning you are your own boss, you work for yourself, you do not work for Adele Care. The Aspen State Regulations for Nurse Registries defines independent contractor means a person who contracts through a referral from a nurse registry. The independent contractor maintains control over the method and means of the delivering for the services providers and is responsible for the performance of such services. An independent contractor is not an employee of the nurse registry. Now that we have defined what is an independent contractor and that you understand that you are not an employee of Adele Care 2 Inc., we're gonna go over the contractor agreement. This independent contractor agreement is entered between you, the independent contractor, and Adele Care 2 Inc., which is a Florida licensed nurse registry as defined under the Florida Statute 400.462. Our license number is 302-12248, and our place of business is 3206 Conway Road, Suite 5, Orlando, Florida 32812. The scope and purpose of this agreement is to determine or to delineate our relationship as a nurse registry and you as an independent contractor, and the relationship that we will build among you, the independent contractor, and the client or patient as delineated on the Florida Statute 400.506. What is a caregiver? The term caregiver includes registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, certified nursing assistant, companion or homemaker, or home health aide, as delineated on the Florida Statute 400.462. So when we refer to you as a caregiver, it could be any of the ones that I just mentioned, right? Our contractor relationship within the nurse registry and the client patient. Pretty much as a nurse registry, we're contracting you as an independent contractor caregiver to provide services to our clients. Our job as a nurse registry is to ensure that you're fully credentialed and qualified, following all the rules and regulations by the Agency for Healthcare Administration, also known as ACA, and any other regulatory agencies for the services that you provide. So anything that we might require from you, it is because it is based on the handbook, rules, and regulations for the services that you will be providing through Medicaid. The contractor then, once we verified that you're fully credentialed, that you have everything as required by ACA and Medicaid and APD, then will provide you or refer you to a client. The contractor will meet with the client, and you and the client will discuss the hours of services, the days of services, anything else. Negotiate the specific natures of the service. What do they want? What do they need? How do they want the services to be provided? And as an independent contractor, it's your job to understand and know the rules and regulations for the specific services that this client has been approved, and follow them as well to be in compliance. The Nurse Registry will inform both the contractor and the client of the financial limitations and requirements for the contractor service and set forth by Medicaid, or the client's applicable insurance or career policy. If both the client and the contractor agree, then they will inform the Nurse Registry that they have an agreement for the contractor to provide services that the client or patient and the contractor have agreed on. So we'll set an appointment, you will meet with the client, you guys will discuss the services, the hours, and everything. And then if both the client and the caregiver agree to provide the services, both will let us know at Delcare, the Nurse Registry, that you guys are in agreement, that is the match, and you would like to provide the services. So then you guys can begin to provide the services to this client, okay? The decision to engage the contractor for any client or patient is that if both the contractor and the client are in agreement, right? The Nurse Registry does not make this decision. So it is not the Nurse Registry, it is not a Delcare responsibility, or we do not make any decisions whether which client you're gonna go or be assigned. It is 100% between you and the client. Both the contractor and the client have the right to terminate the relationship between the contractor and the client at any time for any reason. However, clients that are under Medicaid or APD do require to provide a smooth transition, which we'll be going over in a little bit. The Nurse Registry will assist either the contractor or Nurse Registry in facilitating the respective decisions to engage, modify, or terminate the relationship between the contractor and the client. However, such decisions are those of the contractor and client, not the Nurse Registry, and the Nurse Registry does not have that authority. So if a client wants to terminate services for you, or you want to terminate the services for the client, it is entirely your decision. Delcare is not responsible, nor do we have an authority to do that. Okay? At all times, the contractor retains all authority to create their own schedule in accordance with the negotiated terms and conditions of the relationship with the client that the contractor and client have agreed to. Whether the contractor chooses to work on any particular date or not. If the contractor chooses to work or not on any particular date, it is the responsibility to the contractor to inform the client of their decision not to work on a particular day and to obtain coverage during the contractor's absence if requested by the client. So you are self-employed. Remember, you do not work for a Delcare, you work for yourself. This means you can obtain any days off that you want for any reason. You do not have to give us any explanation. However, it is your responsibility to cover your client on the days that you have agreed with this client. So if for any reason you cannot provide the services to the client, it is your responsibility to communicate with the client and to communicate with us so we can assist you covering the client if needed, okay? The contractor has the right to accept or deny an introduction to any client and accept or deny any proposed opportunity presented to the contractor by the Nurse Registry, accept or deny the hours offered by the client, and accept or deny the hourly rate of fee offered by the client. So it is 100% your decision. Which clients are you going to meet? Which clients do you want to take or work or provide services? And when do you want to work or not? As an independent contractor, because you work for yourself, not for a Delcare. In accordance with the Florida Statute 400.506, a Nurse Registry may not monitor, supervise, manage, or train a registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, certified nursing assistant, companion or homemaker, or a home health aide referred to a client or patient, according to the supervision of the duties and services provided by the contractor is provided by the client, patient, and not the nurse registry. So as a nurse registry, we are not allowed to monitor your work, provide you any assistance or guidance. You are a licensed caregiver. You're supposed to know what you're doing. And mainly we are referring you a client, okay? Everything that happens for the services between you and the client. However, if you are providing services that are not privately paid and are paid by Medicaid, APD, and those services have specific rules and regulations, you as an independent contractor must be aware of this and follow it to be in compliance, okay? In the event of the violation of any Florida statutes, including but not limited to the Florida Statute Chapter 400, any violation of any other law of the Florida by contractor or deficiency in the contractor's credentials which comes to the attention of the nurse registry, the nurse registry shall advise the patient client and suggest that the client terminates the contractor's relationship with the patient, providing the reason for the suggested termination. The nurse registry shall cease referring the contractor to other patients or facilities, and if required by law, the nurse registry will report such violations to the applicable licensing boards. What this means on the letter F is that you as an independent contractor understand that for the services that you provide and for the license that you hold, whether you are a registered nurse, a CNA, a home health aide, you must comply to keeping your licensing and all your credentialing up to date. It is your responsibility as an independent contractor to keep up with your continuing education, CPR, first aid, HIPAA, and anything else related to the services that you provide and your license. It is not AdelCare's job to remind you, to help you, or not so. We are not allowed to do this. It is your responsibility to do so, okay? Now, what happens if you as an independent contractor fail to keep your credentialings up to date? Then we will have to inform the client that you're not in compliance and that you're not allowed to provide services because you are out of compliance. So we will have to remove you from the client until you provide us the proof that you have completed the certifications or any other documentation mandated by ACA, Medicaid, APD, or the payer of the services to be in compliance. Again, this is not for AdelCare as a nurse registry. It is based on the services that you provide, for the services that you provide, and whatever they require and mandate, and that you as an independent contractor should be aware. The scope and manner of the services and care provided by the contractor to the client will be the sole decision of the contractor and not the nurse registry. AdelCare will not provide any equipment, material, or supplies to facilitate the care and services provided to the contractor. Any such costs are responsibility of the contractor. So you are, as an independent contractor or self-employed, responsible for anything related to the services that you provide, as this is your business. This means gloves, gas, anything of such matter, anything that you need to provide the services that you provide. It is entirely your responsibility because you are self-employed and you are an independent contractor with AdelCare. Okay? The contractor acknowledges that they have a unique and special skills required to perform the services, and they agree to provide to the client patients that they will have to provide such services. That these special skills are based on the training that they have obtained and received on their own, independent from the nurse registry and which they are licensed to perform. What this means is that you as an independent contractor have already taken your license, classes, trainings to be either a home health aide, CNA, registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, or whatever other license that you might hold. you are understanding, or you are agreeing that you have the skills that you need to provide the services that you need. So whenever you meet with a client and you go over the requirements the client has for the services that they need, when you decide to take this client or you agree to perform these services, is because you are attesting that you have the skills that you need to provide these services. For example, if you have a case that is a behavior case and the client is aggressive, you understand that is your responsibility and that you have the special skills based on the training that you have already obtained on your own to provide such services. Meaning that if you take a client that is bedbound and it has a Hoyer lifter, you already have the special skills and trainings that you have already obtained before working to provide these services and to manage these equipments all on your own, okay? The Nurse Registry does not restrict the contractor from engaging in any other employment or business opportunity that the contractor as an individual wishes to agree in based on their own managerial skills, talents, and desires, including the contractor having a relationship with other nurse registries. Such decisions for these other business opportunities and decisions are solely the independent contractors, okay? So again, as an independent contractor, you're self-employed, you are your own boss, you can work with as many companies, agencies, nurse registry you want to. You can have private clients, multiple agencies, that is entirely up to you. You are not obligated to work only for a ADLCare. You are an independent contractor and your own boss, and this is 100% your decision, okay? Letter K. This is the part where you stretch a little bit because we are halfway there. The term, scope, permanency of the relationship between the contractor and the client are determined and decided between the contractor and the client, not the nurse registry. Upon the referral of the nurse of the caregiver, right? The nurse registry shall advise the patient and the patient's family or any other person acting on behalf of the patient at the time of the contract for services that the caregiver referred by the nurse registry, it is an independent contractor. Okay, so when we refer you to a client, we let them know you are an independent contractor. They need to discuss directly with you whatever they need by be, as long as they are in compliance with the rules and regulations for the services that they were approved or are being paid by Medicaid. Okay? So whether the person decides to make a relationship or receive the services by you, the client, it is entirely up to them, okay? The business of the nurse registry is to introduce the contractor to the nurse registry's client, and if the nurse registry and the client agree to establish a relationship between them, then the nurse registry will administer the relationship as the facilitating payment for the contractor for the services provided to the client/patient. The nurse registry does not provide any care to any client. The contractor is the one of many other caregivers that the nurse registry has as an independent contractor relationship with. So what we do is, once you agree to provide services to a client and the client agrees to have you provide services with them, we serve as a facilitator for the services, to bill and to pay for the services and to keep that relationship. The contractor is responsible for maintaining their certifications, trainings, and education required for their positions. The nurse registry has no obligation or responsibility in this regard. The nurse registry may periodically provide the contractor with informational bulletins that have a direct or indirect reference to the industry. This is a courtesy notification and is not intended to negate or diminish the contractor obligations for maintaining their certification, trainings, and education required for their position. So as a nurse registry, we might provide you information of things that are in reference to the industry. However, it's 100% your responsibility, the caregiver responsibility, to maintain their certifications, continue education, and anything needed to be able to provide services. It is not AdelCare responsibility to assist you with this, and as a nurse registry, we're not allowed to do this because you are an independent contractor. Remember, you work for yourself, not for AdelCare. Okay? The term for this independent contractor agreement shall begin the day this agreement is signed by the contractor and the nurse registry and shall continue until either party provides the other with notice of the intent to terminate this independent contractor agreement. The term of this relationship between the contractor and the client patient of the nurse registry is determined between the contract and the client. So this agreement between you, the independent contractor, and us at AdelCare, it is until one of us decides to terminate it. It does not renew. However, different with the relationship with you and the clients that you will serve. That is determined between the contractor, which is you, and the client. Number 4, fee for services, payment and protocol. The fees paid to the independent contractor for the services to the client patient are negotiated directly between you and the client. The nurse registry will inform the contractor and the client of the allowable rates by Medicaid, Medicare, and any applicable insurance carrier will allow. However, the actual rate and compensation is determined and agreed between you and the client, okay? The nurse registry, letter B, this is extremely important. The nurse registry currently uses 2 web-based applications in accordance to the statute of Florida mandates electronic visit verification. This electronic visit verification requires that the client and contractor signatures. The contractor will then submit the appropriate digital invoice in accordance to the current nurse registry procedures for electronic submissions. The contractor and the client will collaboratively complete the necessary fields with the application for electronic visit verification payment, ensuring that all required information is accurately captured. The digital invoice form will capture the actual days and hours that the contractor provided services and care to the contractor and client agreed to. The aftermarket requirements are collectively referred as time reports. The electronic visit verification, EVV, is a federal mandate, okay? This is not something the nurse registry is mandating. This is a federal law for all home care services under Medicaid. Failure to clock in and out using the electronic visit verification to record your services will incur and not being able to be paid, okay? Letter C, if the contractor fails to follow the nurse registry time reports procedures, this will delay the documentation and verification of the contractor dates and time of services provided and will delay the contractor's compensation for that period of time. Additionally, if the contractor will be assessed a service fee of $25 per visit per client for any verbal visit verification and manual EVV which the contractor agrees and authorizes to be withheld from the contractor's payment. The EVV is a federal rule, okay? So what we do here at AdelCare, since unfortunately we will not be paid by the insurance for doing any manual visits, okay? It is your responsibility as an independent contractor caregiver to clock in and clock out at the client's place of service. This is again a federal law. This is not a requirement from AdelCare. If you as an independent contractor fail to clock in and out and record your services through the electronic visit verification through the app, we will not be able to pay you for the services. And if you want us to do a manual visit verification or a verbal visit verification, we will charge you a fee of $25 per visit per client to do this manual entry. Okay? You are agreeing that if you miss to clock in or out and you would like for AdelCare to do a manual verification, you will be charged $25. Letter D, the contractor is not an employee of the nurse registry The Nurse Registry will provide on a yearly basis an IRS Form 1099, non-employee compensation, that the contractor is responsible for the payment of any taxes on any monies received by the contractor. The contractor is not entitled to any benefits that are available to the Nurse Registry employees. This includes but not limited to health insurance, a pension plan, vacation pay, or sick pay. The contractor agrees that in any event of any timekeeping errors, billing errors, overpayment, reimbursement errors, regardless of who or what caused the billing errors, the contractor, in accordance to the Florida Medicaid Provider Reimbursement Handbook, within 30 days of being reported to the contractor, will reimburse either the Nurse Registry or the appropriate carrier as determined on case by case. Again, this is following all the rules and regulations for the specific services that you provide. So if you provide personal support, personal care, life skills, companion, long-term care, whichever services you provide, which you will know, and it is your responsibility to understand and be aware of which services are you providing to the client, so you know what rules and regulations you must follow, and the billing and financial responsibilities. Restricted covenants. This is a confidentiality of the Nurse Registry proprietary information which you as an independent contractor understand and agree that is your responsibility to follow any HIPAA laws and any confidentiality between you, the independent contractor, and us, the Nurse Registry. You will have access to clients' information, personal information, and of the Nurse Registry information as well. Any financial plans, any list of clients, suppliers, anything that you access through the Nurse Registry, you are in agreement that you must sustain confidentiality at all times. Non-solicitation of clients. As an independent contractor, you are self-employed and you do not have any exclusivity with AdelCare. However, you are agreeing in this contract that during the term of the relationship created with any client that you are providing services for a period of 2 commencing years, immediately upon the termination of the relationship created, the contractor, which is you, shall not directly or indirectly induce, solicit, or attempt to solicit any client to reduce, limit, or circumvent or terminate the relationship or doing business with the Nurse Registry, which means that you are agreeing that if you stop providing services to any client, and this is an agreement between you guys 100%, you understand that you will not solicit or go to that client or attempt or solicit or talk to them about stop having a relationship with us at AdelCare Twin, okay? Legitimate business interests of the Nurse Registry. The restrictions contained on this agreement are considered by the parties and reasonable and necessary for the protection of the legitimate business interests of the Nurse Registry. Okay. The independent contractors is acknowledging that they're subject to that they are not. You understand and you agree that you are not subject to any employment, non-disclosure, confidentiality, non-compete, or any other agreement with a third party, and are subject to any court order, administrative order, or legal directive which will prevent or prohibit the contractor from entering into this agreement with the Nurse Registry, or prevent the contractor from providing services for a client contemplated by entering into this agreement. There are no restrictions, absolutely no restrictions of engaging in this relationship with another Nurse Registry or home health agencies. The contractor has no authority and is prohibited from engaging in any of the following: incurring any debt or obligation on behalf of the Nurse Registry, entering into any contract, or doing any kind of business on behalf of AdelCare. okay? Number 7, indemnification. The contractor is responsible for its performance under the agreement. The contractor agrees to release, indemnify, or defend or hold harmless the Nurse Registry and the respective members for anything that will require indemnification. Insurance. The independent contractor is required to obtain and maintain at all times during this term of the independent contractor relationship with the Nurse Registry a general liability insurance in a minimum amount of $250,000 for the event, or $500,000 in the aggregate covering all actions or inaction of the contractor. As an independent contractor, again, you are your own boss. You are self-employed, which means you are not covered by AdelCare's policies. You are not covered if you harm yourself or if you harm any client. So it is your responsibility, and you agree to obtain a general liability insurance. This insurance is what protects you as an independent contractor if you have any accidents while providing services, whether it's an accident, for yourself or with a client. Okay, you must obtain a policy, and the contractor must provide proof to AdelCare at the beginning of this relationship, and as often as required, which be annually or when your policy expires. If the duties of the agree between the contractor and the client includes that the contractor will be providing transportation, you must provide to us a copy of your insurance and registration. Outside resources. The Nurse Registry refers to the contractor to the outside resources prepared, published, and maintained by third parties, including government agencies, which might relate the contractor relationship with the patient-client. It is highly recommended that the contractor review such resources, which includes but are not limited to the handbook and bulletins published by the Agency of Healthcare Administration, Florida Medicaid web portal, and some topics that will include but not limited to the developmental disabilities, individual budgeting, Medicaid waiver services, the personal care, personal supports, and life skills, and all the other services. As a courtesy to you, I will share that this is ACA's website, and on ACA's website, you as an independent contractor should know this information, but this is a courtesy again. And on the ACA's website, you will find for all the services, and you will have to find the one that you do. Here's the developmental disabilities, individual budgeting waiver services. This is one of the services that we provide. And there's also the personal care. Like if you go through this website, you will find all the handbooks. Here it is, personal care, all the handbooks for the services that you provide. And in these handbooks, you can find all the information, all the rules. This is how they look. This is the personal care. Everything that you are allowed to do, not allowed to do, what the services are for, what it's allowed, what is not allowed. Everything is here, okay? It is the same for the Medicaid waiver. Again, this is the Florida Medicaid, developmental disabilities, individual budgeting waiver services coverage and limitations. We call it the iBudget handbook, okay? This one is about 300 pages, but everything that is for the services under the iBudget, it is here. What certifications you must have, not have, everything that we require, it is here. Again, it's not the Nurse Registry policies and procedures. This is ACA's policies and procedures. So the CPRs, what is allowed, what's not allowed, and all the trainings, everything required for the services that you are agreeing to provide, it is on these handbooks, okay? Number 10, exhibits to agreement. The contractor agrees to comply with the exhibits A, B, C, D, and E, which we're gonna review in a few, which are attached to this agreement, okay? This agreement might not be amended or modified without both the independent contractor and the Nurse Registry to agree. The parties waive the right to go to a trial by jury on all matters subject to disagreement and the relationship between parties. And this is the end where you will sign the acknowledgement that you understand this agreement in its totality and you are entering into a relationship with our nurse registry.